Sound Off. Horry and Georgetown counties, we welcome you back to Sound Off. Again, Sound Off is heard weekly on your favorite radio station. It's always our goal at Sound Off to deal with topics that are relevant to you and that are also relevant to our young people. And so on this morning on Sound Off, of course, our first segment, we wanted to deal with the Trayvon Martin case and the verdict and how it personally affected all of us. And we were honored to have with us Dr. Naquan Muhammad. And on this segment and the second segment, we're honored to have as our very special guest, Mr. Christopher Hennigan. And you know, when things happen, a lot of times we are not, we're reactive and not proactive. So that's why I wanted to have Mr. Hennigan on, because the process has to begin. Mr. Hennigan is sharing with our young people the importance of being prepared. If you want to be gainfully employed, some nuggets that needs to happen when you walk into a place of business. So again, we're happy to have with us Mr. Christopher Hennigan, representing Bucksport, South Carolina. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, folks. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
And Sound Off team members, would you like to introduce yourself?
What's up? Good morning, it's Terrell.
How y'all doing? This is Raekwon.
And again, we're happy to have Mr. Christopher Hennigan. And we're going to jump back into it, Mr. Hennigan. Let's talk about the process of a young person applying and to an employer. And if they want to work, we talked about the fact that you got the interviewing skills are dressed appropriately. We talked about the ringtone, ring back. And now let's talk about our young people having self-advocacy skills, the importance of them advocating for themselves. How important or how essential is that as it relates to employers?
I think that's huge. Of course, some businesses allow 14 and 15-year-olds to work, and understanding that and knowing that they're still depending on their parents to get them to and from the work, I think it's important for the parent to come in with the kid and don't just send the kid in the shop. I've had kids who come in by themselves and they're 14 and 15-year-old looking for a job, and I let them know, bring your parents back, because I want to get to know the parents and let them understand that I'm hiring this individual to work for me, but I understand that they're still under your leadership. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be your job to get them there, but it's going to be their job to explain why they can or cannot be there. I don't want the parent coming in every other day saying, well, I had to work so they couldn't be here.
Okay.
Because it's a job. It's not a gig, it's a job, and you have to be responsible. So I want them to learn responsibility at 14, at 15, at 16, and then when they get to be 17 or 18 years old, then I say, hey, I'm dealing with you. I'm not dealing with your parent at all.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So at 14 and 15, it's understandable, but
even 16.
So if we're having a family reunion, that young person should take the initiative to say, listen, Mr. Hennigan, I will need this week off, and not have the parent calling in.
Yes, I want them to do that. And the parent can still call in, but I want the kid to take the initiative, because that shows me maturity and responsibility and dependability. That's somebody that I can say, hey, that's a person that I can groom and mold and shape and potentially take on a job, a better job inside of our company.
Okay, and that carries on even from the workplace to the community and becoming a better person.
Exactly.
Okay, what did you have, Ray?
Okay, well, I know where I work at, it's no call, no show means no job. So how important is punctuality in regards to time management where you work at?
I think punctuality is key. We have the same motto: no call, no show, no job. However, there are situations that arise that people can't help, and I understand that. But if you just don't show up and then you show up the next day and be like, yeah, I had to go to my girlfriend's house or my boyfriend's house, or I had to watch my brother and sister, but you didn't take the initiative to call, that's a problem. I just think you have to be proactive as opposed to being reactive.
Okay, all right. Then what did you have, Terrell?
So you know how y'all hiring process, you have to sing to get an application, but what about resumes? Like, how important is having a resume around whenever you go for a job?
I think that a resume is important. For this job, you don't necessarily have to have one, but I think it shows, again, responsibility, because what you're doing is you're preparing yourself for something greater. Mm-hmm. For me, this is my career, so this is probably will be the last job for me. If that's what you want to call it. But for people who are using this as a stepping stone to get from point A to point B, I think it's very important to bring that information, having a little cheat sheet so that you can have references on there, and having people, not your mom or your dad, but like a youth pastor or somebody in the community that you've worked with before. I think those things are very important.
Mr. Hennigan, in the second segment, we talked about the importance of first impression being a lasting impression. And I know some employer, you go and they do the on-spot interview. So would you share with our young people the importance of them? I think T.I. said, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. The importance of coming prepared, just in case you have the on-spot interviews.
I think that goes back to what I was saying about the professional dress, the body language, the lingo, all that plays a part in being prepared to be successful. I go into a store, anywhere I go, I haven't looked for a job in a long time, 13 years as a matter of fact, but I feel like I have a certain type of confidence. So when I walk in, spotlight's on me.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I present well. I want to make sure that my uniform is tight. I want to make sure my hair is tight. Everything is good, and my dialect is on par with the person that I'm dealing with.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chris. I'd like to know that why is it in most interviews the employer always asks, what are some of your strengths and weaknesses? Like, what are y'all trying to find out about us?
I think we were just trying to figure out where you would be best suited at. For what we do, you have salespeople and candy makers, and you don't want a salesperson working in a candy area if they don't have the ability to project and have an outgoing personality. You want that across the board because we're all salespeople, but you want that individual as a candy maker who can really project and who doesn't have a problem cutting up or acting the fool for a moment, which is what we do. We have fun. We're a fun-filled place. And I think for most jobs, you're looking for the best place to put that individual. If they have strength with dealing with people, you want them out front. If they're better in the background, you want to put them in the back. I think that's important.
Okay, and what did you have, Terrell?
All right, Mr. Hennigan, I have a question for you. Since you're a regional manager for the Frederick, right?
Yes, sir.
So what comes with that? Like, what do you have to deal with on a daily basis?
Well, it's like having kids outside of my house because I have to constantly make sure that everybody's following the concept, the roadmap. I have to make sure that everybody has the presentation is correct. I'm like the bad guy, unfortunately. It's my job to come in and see all the things that are going well. If they're not going well, it's my job to correct those things. I do that through my managers. Sometimes I go directly to the employees, but for the most part, every day, my day starts at about 6 o'clock in the morning because I'm up answering the emails from the previous night, and it goes into the next, until 11, 12 o'clock at night because I'm still answering emails. And I'm constantly watching video, or I'm watching our eye control, which gives us information on the numbers for the store. And those numbers tell me, they paint a picture for me, and I know whether we're on pace or we're not on pace to do our job. So.
Okay, and at the beginning of the show, I talked about the fact that you moved up from a candy maker and now a regional manager. Let's talk about what did it take for you to be able to reach the level in which you're enjoying at this present time? It
takes passion and desire.
Okay.
And you have to want to be great. When I came to the job, I wasn't really, the first week I was like, this is not for me because it was corny to me. But then I had someone come in, Mr. Paul Lewis, who's no longer with the company. He came in, he said, man, I can see you being great at this. And so I stuck with it because I really looked up to this guy. And my passion and desire for this job, when I'm ironing my clothes, I'm thinking about how I'm gonna make the money for today. Through my people, because I'm not in the store doing it every day. I don't make fudge every day. I don't sell fudge every day. I do that through my individuals, my managers. And I just want to be great. So when he told me, you can be great, and I know who I am, my last name is Hennigan, and we are proud people. Yeah. And Sherman and Bellamy and McCray, all that's involved in this body. Failure is not an option for me. I want it to be great, and I feel like there's so much more I can do, and there's so much further I can go in this company. So.
Mr. Hennigan, before we end, I really want to touch on one other thing. A lot of times our young people think it's just enough to fill out the application, turn the application in, and maybe you did go through the interview. But let's talk about the follow-up in terms of it's not nagging if I call you and go, Mr. Hennigan, this is Claudine, wanted to check on the status of my application and see if you had time to look at it. Is that okay? And should our young people understand that it's important to do that?
I think that is okay. I would love for an employee to call me back before they become an employee. A matter of fact, as the interview is over with, maybe the question of, so when should I expect to hear from you?
Okay,
You know,
all right.
in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, how long before you look to fill the position? When I was coming up, we didn't necessarily do thank you letters, but I heard that that's the thing that's going on these days. I think that would be great because that just, again, it shows me persistence, it shows me professionalism, and it shows me a responsible person. And I think that goes a long way. Even a phone call.
Okay.
And the flip side of that is I got a phone call. I received a phone call a couple of weeks ago where the young lady was like, y'all got my application? What's going on with this application? When can I start work? Y'all gonna give me a job? Ain't nobody called me back yet. That's not gonna work.
Wow.
So that's the other side of the spectrum that you don't want. It's again professionalism. If you act professionalism and present yourself in a professional manner, you will get better responses. But if you come in there acting like you from the hood or thuggish, not gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
And again, we talked about the fact that, I mean, with the job market being the way it is,
That's it.
it's not like jobs are in abundance.
Well, what I'll say is there are a lot of jobs out there. It may not be the job that you want,
Right.
but there is a job out there for everybody.
Right.
You have to be willing to sometime take a lower level paying job to get from point A to point B. I left a job as a district manager. I came to the Fudgery as a candy maker, and I worked myself up to a store manager, city manager, and now I'm a regional manager. Persistence, passion, desire, and I want it to be great.
Wow. Okay, anything else, Ray and Terrell?
And how?
You know what, I guess what I want you to do, Mr. Hennigan, just do a recap, and I know young people are listening, and even some of the parents, and just do a recap on what we talked about and how important it is for our young people to understand that, as you just said, I mean, it might not be the job you want, but if
Yeah.
you want to be gainfully employed and not be unemployed, then it's just certain things you have to do.
You have to start somewhere, and I think the school systems are doing a great job of getting people involved with the job training and stuff they have. But I would go as far as to say with the parents, practice with your kids
Okay.
on how to conduct an interview. Look at them how they dress and say, hey, this is what you should wear. This is what you shouldn't wear. I think that is vitally important because presentation is everything. And we said it before, you never get a second opportunity to make a first impression. So that first impression goes a long way. Bring your references, bring your best person.
Okay.
Meaning you bring your best person to be in tip-top condition, and I think that will set you apart from everybody else and hopefully get you an opportunity to be into the workforce.
Okay. Again, y'all, let's give it up for Mr. Christopher Hennigan,
Thank you.
regional manager with the Fudgery. And
Thank you.
again, I just really admire what you've done, worked your way up, and I think you're just a wonderful testimony for our young people. And again, thank you for being on Sound Off.
Thank you. Fudge and
Now,
fun.
at Sound Off, we never allow you to leave without giving you the opportunity to shout some people out. So who would you like to shout out on this morning?
I just want to give a shout out to my wife, Connie, my kids, Isaac, Cicely, and Helena, and just Bucksport. I love Bucksport. Representing.
What kind of production this is? This has been a 4x4 entertainment production.